I am Toussaint Louverture. My name is perhaps known to you. I was born a slave, but nature gave me the soul of a free man.
Toussaint Louverture was a very determined man.
He eventually occupies a somewhat privileged role, if you can say that, on a plantation as a coachman, and has a kind of relationship with the managers and masters in some ways. He becomes free in the 1770s. He saw possibilities where other people didn't. Toussaint is, I think, one of the most incredible figures that I know about in many ways. He's born on a plantation in Saint-Domingue. He grows up on that plantation.
That plantation was owned by a man who was tolerant for the times. Toussaint was taught to read and write as a child.
He had businesses, had contacts in the US and elsewhere, bank accounts, managed his affairs pretty well. The man was endless in organizational capacity. I mean, he would have been a fantastic CEO today.
He was not of the same class anymore. His interests were different from the interests of the masses.
On the night of August 22nd, 1791, 1,000 enslaved Africans attacked their masters. But Toussaint's first reaction to the raging violence was based neither on money nor race. It was personal. He went back to the plantation where he had been born to protect his former owners. Back in the capital city, as Toussaint helped his former master flee the violence, Saint-Domingue's whites repelled assault after assault. The new French government in Paris sent more than 10,000 military reinforcements to help the colonists reestablish white rule. As rebel leaders struggled to forge a disciplined fighting force, Toussaint's talents and intellect set him apart. Toussaint, on the other hand, had a unique window on the world. He was schooled in African and European culture alike, and had read some of France's most radical thinkers. In the autumn of 1791, Toussaint L'Ouverture could no longer sit on the sidelines. Despite a wife and children, despite the chance even of losing his own freedom, Toussaint didn't hesitate long.
He left everything. He dropped everything, and he went to the mountain.
Toussaint L'Ouverture was asked to write up a settlement offer. New French commissioners had just arrived from Paris to restore order. More liberal than the planters, they urged Saint-Domingue's whites to accept the rebels' offer, and they called slave leaders to the capital of Le Cap for negotiations. Trust was minimal. Some slave rebels wanted to kill their white prisoners, but Toussaint L'Ouverture argued against it. He wanted the whites returned to Le Cap as a gesture of goodwill.
So Toussaint is sent to negotiate with the planters with the idea that, in a sense, a settlement can be reached. The settlement is not only for the freedom of some of the insurgent leaders, but also for some reforms on the plantation. Small reforms, but reforms that, at least in the letters they describe, their followers really want.
The whites said no. They said no. Because at that time, they were the one who wanted revenge. They forget about what they have done for 3 centuries, and they think that they were the victims in that thing. So they have to avenge themselves. So they're not going to forgive or forget anything. They refused.
Of course, he's taken up arms against them.
Toussaint's support for a settlement abruptly ended, and with it, the best deal the whites would ever see. The white planters had cause for worry. Less than 2 years after joining the rebellion, Toussaint Louverture had risen to the top of the rebel army.
I am Toussaint Louverture. My name is perhaps known to you.
In 1793, he wrote an open letter to the island's disenfranchised.
I have undertaken vengeance. I want liberty and equality to reign in Saint-Domingue. I work to bring them into existence. Unite yourselves to us, brothers, and fight with us for the same cause.
With his letter, he announces two things. He announces, first of all, his commitment to the process, to the project of emancipation. And he announces his presence as a leader, maybe even the leader. He has gained great respect from his followers. And with this proclamation, he's essentially saying, you want freedom, and I'm the one who's going to bring you that freedom. So I'm the person to follow in this regard.
But Toussaint at this time was addressing the wider world too. He was particularly focused on Spain. Spain controlled Saint-Domingue's neighboring colony.
Toussaint Louverture recruited about 3,000 to 4,000 people, trained them.
Toussaint's forces captured 3 cities within 8 months. Saint-Domingue's white planters were desperate. Many hated the new order in France. In a treasonous move, they invited the British to help put down the slave rebellion.
I think it was very powerful for the representatives of France to hear essentially that what had happened in the Caribbean is that the white slave owners had deserted France. They had gone over to the British, they had fought against the Republic, and the true people, the true Republicans in Saint-Domingue were these enslaved people who just wanted their freedom.
The French National Assembly endorsed the emancipation of Saint-Dominguean slaves. But that was not all. The delegates freed slaves throughout the entire empire, too.
Nobody knows exactly what's going to come out of it, but just the idea of having rights, right? The idea that all people have rights, that those rights are inherent. This was something that obviously philosophers had written about before, but during the course of the French Revolution, it was written down in a text called the Declaration of the Rights of Man.
It's a dangerous idea because the society is based on inequality. That's what makes it work, because it was not supposed to work for everybody. It was supposed to work for a minority. Liberty, equality, fraternity, that was new for the world.
It was utterly unprecedented. In a stroke, nearly 1 million black slaves had become French citizens. Word that the French revolutionary government had freed its slaves reached Saint-Domingue quickly. It was one of history's great watersheds, and due largely to the extraordinary military accomplishments of Toussaint's army.
I think we all, in some ways, have inherited something from this revolution, because it's really the first place that people insisted absolutely that human rights were for all people.
It's something that everybody should know about it, to know exactly what our species, not black people, but our species can realize. They fought, the French, the British, and the Spanish army for 12 years.
He championed liberty and égalité for all.